Shelley's Frankenstein is more than a Gothic horror story. It's a warning, a message born at the height of one of Europe's most chaotic transformations. In the early 1800s, a wave of machines, factories, and new scientific theories reshaped Western civilization. For the first time, people began to fear that human ambition and technology could outrun morality itself. Through Victor Frankenstein's obsession with mastering nature, Shelley reveals a civilization unsure of the future it was creating. To understand the message of Frankenstein, we have to understand the world Shelley was watching fall apart. The Industrial Revolution changed everything. Cities swelled with overcrowded housing and polluted air. Factories replaced handcraft. Machines replaced people. Children as young as 6 worked dangerous 14-hour shifts inside textile mills, while adults stood shoulder to shoulder feeding cotton into roaring machines. Urban life became dark, dirty, and exhausting, nothing like the stability Europeans once knew. New machines like the spinning jenny and power loom put thousands of skilled workers out of jobs, leading to riots like the Luddite uprisings between 1811 and 1816. Too many people. It felt like society was being re-engineered into something colder, faster, and less human. Shelley channels this fear directly into Victor's experimental project of progress without responsibility. Victor Frankenstein represents the extreme end of Enlightenment thinking, the belief that reason and science could solve everything and that boundaries existed only to be crossed. In Shelley's time, scientists were experimenting with electricity, WSM, anatomy, and chemical processes. Some believed they could reanimate dead tissue. Victor becomes a symbol of this mindset. He sees nature not as something to respect, but as a puzzle to dominate. He works in secrecy, isolated from loved ones, driven by a single obsession, to create life. But Shelley exposes the danger behind this obsession. The Enlightenment valued knowledge and mastery, but Victor's experiment shows what happens when knowledge advances without moral wisdom. He creates a living being and immediately abandons it. While industrial cities filled with machines, another movement rose in opposition: Romanticism. Romantic thinkers believed that nature, emotion, imagination, and the human spirit were more important than logic and scientific ambition. This tension is everywhere in Frankenstein. Shelley contrasts Victor's dark, artificial laboratory with bright, sublime landscapes: the Alps, the lakes, the glaciers, the storms. Nature in the novel acts like a source of healing, clarity, and meaning. The natural world reminds us of beauty, peace, and humility, everything industrialization was beginning to erase. Victor's rejection of nature mirrors Europe's rejection of spiritual and emotional depth. The novel uses romantic imagery to show what humanity loses when it becomes obsessed with machines, progress, and power. One of Shelley's strongest messages is about responsibility. Victor's greatest failure is not the act of creation, it is the refusal to take responsibility for what he created. The creature is intelligent, emotional, and desperate for connection. But Victor cannot accept him, cannot guide him, and cannot see his humanity. This abandonment mirrors the moral problems of industrial society. Factory owners, inventors, and political leaders chased innovation while ignoring the human cost. Exhausted workers, unsafe conditions, families broken by endless labor. Europe was celebrating the rise of the self-made genius, the individual who changed the world through innovation. But Shelley exposes the dark side of this thinking. Victor's ambition makes him ignorant to empathy. And when powerful people disregard the human consequences of their actions, the results can become monstrous. 200 years later, Shelley's warning feels familiar. Humanity continues to create things we do not fully understand. Artificial intelligence, biotechnology, genetic editing, and automation, just like the early machines of the Industrial Revolution. These technologies promise incredible progress, but they also raise the same questions Shelley asked in 1818. What are the limits of human ambition? What happens when we build something that becomes more powerful than we expected? And who is responsible when creation goes wrong? Shelley's warning endures because the fears of her. Time never vanished, they simply evolved. Frankenstein is not just a novel. It is a historical document, a snapshot of Europe in crisis. It captures the fear, excitement, and uncertainty that defined the Industrial Revolution. Factories rose. Cities exploded in size. Machines replaced centuries of tradition. People wondered whether progress meant liberation or if it meant losing something essential. Mary Shelley saw all of this happening, and she understood something that many of her contemporaries ignored. Ambition reshapes the world, but it also creates consequences. And those consequences don't disappear just because the creator looks away. Shelley puts that truth in Victor's hands. He wants to be brilliant. He wants to be remembered. He wants to achieve what no scientist has ever achieved before. At the moment, he succeeds. He panics. He abandons his creation and pretends he holds no responsibility for what comes next. That decision becomes the moral center of the novel. Shelley forces us to confront a reality most people still run from. Innovation doesn't make us gods. If anything, it magnifies our flaws. It exposes our selfishness, our fear, our lack of empathy. It shows how dangerous ambition becomes when it's divorced from compassion. Victor believed he could control life, but by refusing to guide what he created, he ensured it would destroy him. And that message reaches far beyond the 1800s, because every generation faces its own version of Victor Frankenstein. Every era builds something new, a machine, a system, an idea, and hopes it will solve our problems. But history keeps reminding us, when responsibility disappears, progress becomes destructive.